if we're talking about brand and scale,
Yeah.
I think a lot of the conversations that I have, bearing in mind normally these conversations are with performance marketers,
Yeah.
right? So normally it's how do you plan your investment and know when you're going to get your return?
Yeah.
And how should all of that work? So when
Yeah.
you're starting to, the business goes, we need to grow.
Yeah.
We've got a growth plan. Hey, brand, let's do it.
Yeah.
Where do you start? And how do you start to plan out what that investment path looks like?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a misnomer about brand as well. So I've been in brand and marketing for near on 25 years. I've been doing it a really long time. Brand is more than advertising. Brand is more than marketing. So whilst marketing, I always talked around marketing is my best friend, not my only friend. So actually, especially when you're in a pure brand role, I'm in a slightly different role now actually where I do marketing as well. But when you're in a pure brand world and you're thinking about your brand strategy, the first thing to define is, what is my brand? Who am I? Why am I here? What am I doing for customers? What problem am I solving for customers? Because we're all here because we're trying to solve problems for customers, regardless of what business you're in. You're trying to solve a problem. A customer has an issue and your company can step in and they can buy that from you. That's why we're all here. And an important part of that is to understand what that is. And look, most brand people can get really fluffy about this stuff, and we can talk about the essence of our brand and our purpose and why we're here. But essentially it's, why am I here? What am I doing? And being really clear on what makes you different. Again, people call it USPs and blah, blah, blah. But essentially, why are you here and what you're doing?
Yeah.
Being really clear about that. Understanding your customer journey and obsessing over it and fixing all of the bits that are broken. That is the essence of your brand. And then making sure that you are consistent across all of the touch points. So like I said, marketing is a key part of that, but it's not the only bit. You should be just as I always talk about, I'm just as weird about the hold music when you call our call center as I am about the music that plays on an advert. And when you are pure brand, that's what your focus should be. You are weird about every single tiny interaction to make sure it's consistent across every single touch point. Like, I obsess around driver uniforms, about what our vans look like, about what our advertising is, about what the copy is on recruitment and job ads, around what words are on our website, about how we describe our products, the whole thing, the whole shebang. Get weird about everything, obsess about everything, every single tiny detail. Once you have that, once you're comfortable with it, once you think you've got a good product or a service, then you can talk to marketing about how to explode it out.
So it's fascinating. Going back, this is probably an episode in itself, but you mentioned first off you need to understand who it is, what you do, who you are, what you do and why you do it.
Yep.
I think when you're running a business or you're in a business, that can sound simple, but it's actually very difficult to articulate.
Yeah.
Without going into loads of detail, because we could probably talk about this for hours,
Yeah.
but what would your advice be for someone who's trying to answer that question?
The simplest thing, so how we start it is, it's an exercise that a lot of marketing people and a lot of brand people use. I definitely didn't invent it. But if someone's willing to pay me to write a book about it, then I'll say it's mine. Is the so what ladder. So I was taught this years ago. So you start at the top with your line, with the proposition, what you think your business is here for, and then you keep saying so what. So what, so what, so what, so what, so what. And it removes all of the BS that exists in your head about why you're so important. So you might say, we offer the quickest, best bread. So what? Well, that's because our bread is delicious. So what? And you get to the core of why you exist all the way down at the bottom. And look, the likelihood is that it'll never be a customer-facing line, but it'll make everyone internally understand why you exist. But if you get to the core of the so what at the end, until it's so basic, you should be able to distill it into a sentence, remove all the bullshit, and stop it being navel-gazing.
No, I love that. That's great advice. You also touched on something there, which I think there is a confusion around, and that is brand and marketing.
Yeah.
So, most people, we were talking before, weren't we, about how a lot of people will look at brand marketing or brand building and go, it's TV, it's billboards, it's posters, it's tube takeovers.
Yes.
That's the amplification, isn't it? So can you explain the relationship?
Yeah.
Brand marketing, brand advertising, brand performance. I think that'd be really interesting.
Yeah. So brand strategy. So I have all of these disciplines within my world now. So brand strategy is the core of your brand, why you exist, and the consistency of that across all across all touch points, not just customer, internal as well, investor, the whole lot. They obsess about every single part of your brand. We kind of focus on it from what we call an intimacy circle. So at the middle of your circle, you have your customers. And then if you imagine a circle on the outside of that, that's what we call the intimate zone. So that's a space where you can really own the brand. That is a space where as a retailer, we can make sure that you're really going to understand what the brand is. So that's everything from how call center handles complaints, through to UX, through to I'm trying to think of something else. Call music when you call in, and then you go out into a wider circle, and that's called, interestingly, a less intimate space, which is where a customer doesn't really know that they're being advertised to. You don't really get that from a brand point of view that we have sort of our fingers in all these pies. And this is things like PR. This is things like comms. It's things like investor relations. It's things like fans that are running around. There's a group of people that work for businesses that know the inside out of that. And then on the outside, the widest, the least intimate zone is a space where consumers can 100% know that they're being advertised to. And that is where you have TV, radio, press, digital, and all of your advertising channels. But be under no illusions, a customer gets that. They 100% understand that they're being marketed to, and they understand that you're controlling all of those bits. So the link between all of that is the outside space is very much driven by the marketing team, all the marketing team, because you give a marketeers guidelines, playbooks, principles, they will nail your brand inside out. Where you need to focus a lot as a brand function and a brand strategy function is those two more inner circles.
It's really interesting that you talk about customer interactions. I actually think the detail is so important for enhancing your brand experience, protecting your brand.
Yeah.
Right. So look at it's probably an extreme, massively off tangent example, but you look at the Oasis and the Ticketmaster fiasco.
Yeah.
Ticketmaster spent years and years and years building up their brand to be the place to go for easy, convenient ticket purchases, and suddenly, bang.
Yeah.
So how do you, given that everyone's human, mistakes happen, every brand at some point in its life will have something that happens that they have to get around. Can you talk a little bit about brand protection and how you adapt when something unexpected happens?
Yep. Protecting your brand and ensuring consistency is really important, but you can do as many playbooks and guidelines and principles as you want. But if the people that don't work for your brand don't believe in what you're doing, they will make mistakes and they will make wrong decisions. So the first thing to do is to make sure that everyone that works for you gets it. They understand why you exist, why you're here. Once they kind of get that and it's in them, and they're making decisions aligned with that, it will be very, very clear when they're not, because it will feel odd. There will be other people around them going, that just feels off. Or you'll have people going, I don't quite like that. It feels a little. And actually, if your business is focused on your brand, that has to thrive. You have to have people questioning and poking and prodding around the decisions that you're making internally. Ticketmaster would have known what they were doing, but they'll have done it anyway. But it depends on what their brand was. I'm not entirely sure I would have seen Ticketmaster as a brand that acted with integrity or was always giving the customers the best value. I'm probably not overly surprised on what has happened with those guys. I think if you'd have had a brand that, I don't know, had a brand that was aligned with caring and value for customers and champion of the customers, then I think you'd be overly surprised.
So is that scenario actually a brand problem? Possibly not, right?
Possibly not. Possibly not for them. I don't know a huge amount about Ticketmaster's brand, but I do not think I would have thought of those guys as massively champion for the customer value for money.